All right, so are you ready to dive into the life and career of Cristiano Ronaldo?
Absolutely one of football's most iconic figures, you know?
It's definitely iconic. And we're going right to the source for this one, using excerpts from a biography written with his agent, Jorge Mendes.
Oh, wow. So we're getting the inside scoop.
Exactly an inside look at everything that
Yeah.
made him Ronaldo, from his childhood to becoming a global superstar.
I'm really interested to see what's behind the public image. You know, what's the real story?
Me too. And I think what's really fascinating here is how he went from a kid facing real struggles
Yeah.
to one of the greatest players of all time.
It's incredible when you think about it.
We're going to explore it all, his tough childhood, his training, his personality, everything.
That complex personality everyone always talks about.
Yeah, exactly. And I want you to think about this as we go through all of this. What drives someone like that to that level of success?
That's a good question. What is it? Talent, ambition, just luck?
Or all of the above?
Maybe, right.
Let's start at the beginning, on the island of Madeira, where he was born.
And there,
It's not just some random island, though. It really shaped him.
yeah, it's not your typical tropical paradise, is it?
Not exactly. It's got this unique history discovered by Portuguese explorers way back in the 15th century, and it became a strategic outpost.
You know, you can feel that sense of isolation in Ronaldo's story.
Yeah, for sure. And that isolation wasn't just geographical. His family life was incredibly tough.
That's right. His parents, Jose and Dolores, they struggled with poverty and alcoholism.
They lived in a cramped house, tons of people sharing a single space, no running water or electricity.
I read that Dolores even considered taking her own life at one point. It was that bad.
It's hard to imagine how difficult it was, but she pulled through. She's an incredibly strong woman,
She worked so hard to provide for her family.
leaving school at 13 to make wicker baskets. Imagine that.
6 days a week, starting at dawn.
Hmm.
Wow.
It makes you wonder what impact that kind of hardship had on a young Ronaldo.
It must have been huge. You know, that environment, I think it probably instilled this drive to succeed in him.
Like he had to escape the circumstances he was born into.
Yeah, exactly.
And even with all that going on, football was always there.
It was his escape.
His godfather, Fernando Barrosusa, saw his talent early on and gave him his first real football.
I love that story about how Ronaldo threw a tantrum when he got a toy car instead of a football as a toddler.
He just wanted to play
Yeah, even then he had that passion.
and just got stronger. He practically lived on the streets, honing his skills, playing with anyone he could find.
I read that he even practiced alone against a wall or on the beach for hours.
Wow. And his youth coach at National, Pedro Talinas, described him as a player from the street.
With exceptional technique in both feet.
So those long hours running, playing, climbing trees, they all helped develop his athleticism and those problem-solving skills.
It's like the island itself forged his strength, both mental and physical.
But he wasn't always the easiest kid to coach, even with all that talent.
What do you mean?
Well, he had that competitive spirit, the drive to win,
He did always had that fire.
but it didn't always translate to being a good teammate.
Ah, that makes sense.
Yeah. When he was 8, he joined Andorinha, the local club where his dad worked.
As a kit man.
Yeah, he basically lived at the club anyway.
So it was a natural progression.
It was. But even then, that competitive streak was showing.
How so?
He'd get frustrated if his teammates weren't pushing for more goals, even if they were already winning big.
Wow, really?
Yeah, he just couldn't understand why anyone wouldn't want to keep attacking and scoring.
Like he was wired differently?
I think so. He had this relentless pursuit of excellence, even as a kid.
And that drive would eventually take him off the island and onto the world stage?
Exactly. But first he moved from Andorinha to CD Nacional, another Madeiran club.
A step up in competition.
A big one. And that's where things really start to get interesting.
The competition was fierce on the island national, and Maritimo battling for the best young players?
They knew they had to move fast to sign the most promising ones.
And Ronaldo was the ultimate prize.
That's a lot of pressure for a young player.
It is, but it seems like Ronaldo, he thrived under that pressure. He was scoring goals, dominating matches.
Showing everyone what he could become.
His coach at National, Pedro Talinas, recognized that natural ability, that street football background.
Talinas said that running, climbing, being self-sufficient, it gave Ronaldo those mental weapons.
Yeah, to improvise and solve problems on the pitch.
But even he admitted that their biggest challenge was getting Ronaldo to understand that football is a team sport.
There's that tension again.
Right.
But they played a huge role in his development. Those coaches at National Kenya, they started to instill the importance of tactics positioning, working within a system.
But he was so young, just 11 or 12 years old.
They could see he was special, though, and it wasn't long before the mainland clubs started noticing.
Enter Sporting Lisbon. one of Portugal's biggest clubs.
A life-changing opportunity.
Absolutely. So we've got this incredibly talented kid, but a little headstrong, leaving Madeira for Sporting Lisbon's academy.
Wow, that's a huge step for a 12-year-old.
It was for him and his whole family. His mom, Dolores, cried all the way home after leaving him in Lisbon.
I can only imagine.
It was the right move for his career, but tough on everyone.
He can tell he was already looking after them. Even then, the agreement included Dolores visiting him 3 times a year.
And his first salary went straight to the family, $10,000.
Wow. But Sporting's Academy, that's a whole different world.
It was intense competition pressure.
Yeah.
He was training with the best young players in Portugal.
He had to adapt quickly, and the biography says he arrived with some baggage.
Baggage.
Yeah. He struggled to fit in, clashed with teammates, even had problems at school.
I read that he was so homesick he'd steal food from other players.
Seriously?
Yeah, they almost let him go a few times. Can you believe that?
Wow, what changed their minds?
Well, his talent was obvious, and he had this crazy determination.
You knew what he wanted.
And he fought for it. But even with all that, he still had that sense of humor.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Like when he was cleaning the dining room as punishment, and the other boys were teasing him about his Ferrari.
What'd he say?
He shot back. "You'll see one day I'll be the best in the world and I'll have loads of Ferraris."
Classic Ronaldo.
So much confidence even then.
But those years at Sporting, they were crucial for him. Training with older boys, pushing himself.
His friend Hugo Pina talked about how he always wanted to be involved in everything: free kicks, corners, penalties.
He wasn't afraid of anything.
He wanted to be the best, and the other boys, they saw that.
Even if they were annoyed, sometimes they knew he was making them better.
And that's what it's all about, right? Pushing each other to be better.
It is, and it paid off. At 17, he scored his first goal for Sporting.
And his mom fainted in the stands.
I love that story. So much emotion.
That goal, it was like something clicked. The fear was gone. His confidence soared.
Soon, he was making his debut against Inter Milan in the Champions League.
Wow. From the academy to facing one of the biggest clubs in Europe.
He wasn't intimidated, though. He was playing with freedom and joy, and people noticed.
They noticed his style. The step-overs, the tricks, that incredible pace.
Scouts from all over were watching him.
And then came the match that changed everything. Sporting versus Manchester United, August 2003.
A friendly match, but with the intensity of a final.
Rio Ferdinand said no one had warned them about Ronaldo. They didn't even know his name.
They definitely knew it after.
What happened?
Ronaldo was unstoppable, running at defenders, beating them easily, creating chaos with his tricks and speed.
Sounds like he dismantled one of the best teams in the world single-handedly.
He did. Quentin Fortune said Ronaldo's confidence was unbelievable.
Even Gary Neville said from home that Ronaldo made a run only world-class players make.
It was more than just fancy footwork. It was his movement, his intelligence.
Because he was playing chess and everyone else was playing checkers.
Exactly. And Sir Alex Ferguson, he was watching.
He knew he had to have Ronaldo. This wasn't just another talented kid.
This was a potential superstar.
And Ronaldo must have felt amazing.
He was meant for this. There's a story about how he always gelled his hair into 2 spikes for matches.
2 spikes every time.
His friend Hugo Pina said he wasn't surprised at all when he saw Ronaldo at his Manchester United presentation with those same spikes.
Like it was destined.
But going to Manchester United, that's another level.
The biggest stage in the world. And he was only 18.
So how did he handle it? Did the pressure get to him or did he rise to the challenge? So how did he handle it? Did the pressure get to him or did he rise to the challenge?
Well, let's just say Old Trafford is a different beast altogether.
Yeah.
Did he sink or swim?
Oh, he swam all right.
But
there were definitely some splashes along the way.
I bet.
He was just a kid walking into a locker room with guys like Roy Keane, Ryan Giggs, Paul Scholes.
Legends.
Absolute legends. And they were all business in no time for anyone who wasn't serious about winning.
I bet they had some fun with him, though, right?
Yeah.
Some initiation rituals?
Oh, yeah, for sure. The biography talks about Rio Ferdinand and Quentin Fortune giving him a hard time.
Oh, yeah.
Everything, his clothes, his hair, even his locker, which used to belong to David Beckham.
I can imagine Ronaldo wasn't too thrilled about that. He seems like a guy who takes himself pretty seriously.
He did, and it just made them tease him more, but that's where Sir Alex Ferguson really shines.
What do you mean?
He saw Ronaldo's potential, but also those rough edges. So he knew he had to balance nurturing that talent with discipline.
Like a father figure, almost.
Yeah, a lot of people have said that Ronaldo was drawn to coaches because he didn't have that strong father figure growing up.
Makes sense. And Ferguson knew exactly how to handle him.
Tough love, right?
Exactly. He'd yell at him for holding on to the ball too long, but then explain why English football is different.
It worked, though. Ronaldo responded to that, and his work ethic was insane.
Legendary, right?
Absolutely. He'd be practicing free kicks hours after everyone else went home, always pushing himself.
Like that story about him taking extra balls out to practice and John Campbell, the kit man, yelling at him to hurry up.
What'd he say?
John, I'm going to be the best player in the world. I need to do this.
Wow.
Dedication.
It paid off, too. He went from this flashy, individualistic player to a goal-scoring machine who could also create for his teammates.
You made everyone around him better.
Exactly. That's what the greats do. They elevate the whole team, and that's what he did at Manchester United.
Like a rising tide lifts all boats.
And they were riding that Ronaldo tide, winning 3 Premier League titles in a row. The FA Cup, the Champions League.
Wow.
He was becoming a global icon, but as we know, all good things must come to an end.
In 2009, he made that record-breaking move to Real Madrid after 6 incredible seasons at United.
Talk about pressure. Real Madrid is the biggest club in the world, maybe.
They expect perfection, nothing less. How did he handle that?
He thrived under it, but it wasn't always smooth sailing.
What do you mean?
Well, he clashed with Jose Mourinho, one of the toughest managers in the game.
Makes sense.
And his relationship with the fans was complicated. They loved him, but they were also quick to criticize.
And then there's the messy rivalry.
2 titans of the sport pushing each other to be better.
It's amazing how their careers are so intertwined.
Ronaldo never backed down from that challenge, though. He won 4 more Champions League titles with Real Madrid.
And became the competition's all-time leading scorer.
Plus 5 Ballon d'Ors, tying Messi's record at the time he was breaking records left and right.
Incredible. But I wonder at what cost. The biography suggests all that success might have come at the expense of his personal life.
It says it was a small tragedy, always striving, never content.
Always looking ahead, never savoring the moment.
He was isolated even with all the fame and fortune, and the media scrutiny was intense.
So we come back to that question, what drives someone like that? Is it just talent and ambition?
Or is it something deeper, something from those early years of hardship?
That's something to think about. His upbringing definitely played a role, gave him that drive. But you can't deny his talent either.
It's probably a combination nature and nurture, creating one of the most iconic figures in sports history.
We've looked at the facts, the stories, the different sides of it all, but what do you think?
Cristiano Ronaldo, a complex and fascinating guy, and his story is captivating.
It is. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the life and career of Cristiano Ronaldo.
We hope you enjoyed it.
And maybe learned a thing or two.